Recording in progress.
And we'll start with the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I assume that everybody pretty much saw the email about I did talk to Sue, and she's looking at doing something on May 27th, I think is Friday, for Memorial Day weekend. For families. So May 27th now, is when I'm looking at doing something for Bob.
What kind of?
So, yeah, but it was, she said it was an ulcer, a perforated ulcer is what she said. And she had nothing but good things to say about people at Mercy that tried to help him out, but obviously it was sudden and.
The father was 88 or 89.
Yeah. I know it was up to his upper age, so I don't know exactly here. They said they had just suffered or gone through COVID, the two of them, before that. So anyway, she said that this all had 27th had to do with family stuff. I said, I thought you guys were in California, and so they were supposed to be. But then they got COVID, and he was having these health issues. And anyway, so pretty quick, obviously. So I passed condolences. He talked about how much he loves Rotary. So anyway, when we know
He was probably the longest tenured Rotarian. And I think he came in. This thing happened, right? Yeah, so let's say he was, you know, 7.
yeah. So
He was a member of the club longer than
Oh, yeah,
So anyway, when we find out more details, she acted like it was going to be something at the church. She thought, but she wasn't sure. So they still haven't heard on.
I'm sure she was going to.
I don't know.
I think so, West County.
Okay. I don't know. So I didn't ask her any questions, obviously.
It will be with all organizations.
Yes. So anyway, I'll keep you posted as we find out more. So with that, I will turn it over to Tom for starting remarks.
Good morning, Lynette. I won't say somber note, but not our really longest member. Dr. Lindley.
Yeah.
Always yeah. Yes. Sure. He's been a great mentor to all of us over the years.
We've lost 2 in the last 3 weeks. Dr. Beatty passed away about the end of April. And he was 90, he retired about when he was 70. Oh, he still his practice, he died about 45
So Mrs. Needy told me that they graduate Bob and
middle school,
same year, and that they were a day apart in age. So that would have made them, him 90 then too.
Yeah, it's pretty important.
Yeah. 89.
So here's another 5 in honor.
Very good. President?
I'll give one in honor of Bob, and then some happy blues.
Yeah.
One last night.
I'll add my, very impressed my last Friday night. It's really good.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
It's amazing to sit there and listen to all the things that we do and have done.
Yeah.
It's kind of refreshing.
Well, I like it that we had different speakers and no one talked too long and it was really well.
Everybody did great.
Thank you. That's a great facility.
Oh, yeah. I think the show.
Yeah. And I thought that
service staff was outstanding. Took great care of us. Ruth.
I had something in the morning. Please. One for Bob. The other one is we've had my son, we've had 7 years. One of the he had 3 he had a capital yesterday for 4 hours. 9:30 was down. I have a story.
All right, sure.
It's politically not correct, but I was one day, 22, over, and it was standing on the board. So they have he was about 47. And he was a presentation. He was going, first off, he showed that permit 3-4. Permit in selling eggs. And he said, I'll look up. Good line. Sunset Hill, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was a real presentation. And your neighbor, he's done it too. Sure. It brings up this thing. Okay. So what is it? What I see, why the papers, the magazines for the YMCA hospitals. I've never seen that. So anyway. So I'm thinking of, hey, this is right. That's right. Could be standing at a on-ramp. Exactly. Hey, well, why not? So I give him the $180. Oh, yeah. That was the whole. So then the next day I go online. New weekend, start time. Number one, they have phone number, but they don't answer. That's it. Number two, they cash the check. And number three, they probably don't. So anyway, I just told this. It was a good call.
Yeah. Think of something, right? I think you can get out of that for that. You can't get an extra in the car. We learned some skills.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is there a little mark on the curb by your house?
Well, I'll tell you. We had a burglary in our neighborhood. That's sort of thing. And they could come in kind of around our fences, but anyway, the big one has 3 homes. So I'm a trustee, so I'm gonna kind of touch with you, but you get a camera system. So, police and thieves, they had cameras at the house, probably alarm system. So we picked up the camera, we paid for that. So we copied that 1 hour. Well, turns out, they didn't come in. 3 police cars. Well, turns out, across the street, over Gallery, someone saw 4 people get out and 4 people in the house. They get the license plate. It's not as much of a thing. Turns out the Luigi, here's the interesting. We were recording license plates. They found this license plate, April 27th. Further in the city, Louisville, and after this incident, they found it. They just want to take a picture of the license plate.
St. Anne has quite a few of those going nuts for license plate.
Well, this must be on the interstate or something. They can track all 50 states. I didn't hear anything politically incorrect. On
Yeah.
that, I didn't describing it.
Yeah, yesterday morning, I was at the ODA meeting, and after the meeting, I got to talk to Ray Bear, who is the executive director of the Fischer Care. And I started talking to him about what we used to do every third Wednesday. He'd never heard of this, he's very interested in maybe setting it up if we just want to do it. And I give you the obligation to call him, okay, I got to start. Oh, they also are going for people to sign up on a milk thing, $3 a month, so that you can have fresh milk. Don't want to do it, fine, you know, that's the material. But anyway, maybe we can get back to the book.
Does he know what's in it yet?
He knows what ice cream, what we used to do, and how we used to do it. That's the problem.
I didn't talk to him about that.
I'm sure you have. I know we have, but this isn't the first time. But, you know.
Yeah, I find it easier at 7 AM than 7 PM.
Yeah.
That's it. All right. Thanks for the remarks. Okay.
Well, we got Jim discussing this morning, and we want to talk about the Fischer house. And Bob and I are the only veterans here, but I'm sure anybody in this room knows people that have veteran families or friends or whatever. And maybe something, you know, if we find out this morning, might be helpful to somebody in the future. And that's why I asked him to. Great.
Good morning. I'm just going to speak out here. Well, we've got some people online, if you can go behind. That's why that'll help them. The microphone will help them.
Oh, all right, I got that. Well, my real job in life is as a husband, and we need a lot of guidance. And I just want to tell you a story that illustrates that. This lady had a 10-year-old child, and she noticed that the child didn't look like anybody in the family, didn't act like anybody in the family. So she had a DNA test done. And the results came back that the child was not related to anybody in the family tree. And so she went to her husband and said, hey, I've got this DNA test, and it says that our child is not related to anybody on my side of the family or anybody on your side of the family. Do you have any explanation? And the husband said, well, yeah. Don't you remember when you had that baby and we were coming out of the hospital and the baby pooped? You told me take it back inside and change it. Well, I did. I went up to the nursery and I put the dirty one back and took a clean one. And so the moral of the story is when you want your husband to do something, be very specific about what you want done.
My son had a bone marrow transplant 2 years ago. He was kind of an SDNA. So he had it because he wanted to have it after he had a bone marrow transplant. That doesn't work.
Oh,
The DNA after bone marrow transplant doesn't work like.
well, just for you, I've got magazines over here and they're free. So if you take one, I want to tell you about a secret organization, it seems, not by design, and that's Fischer House. And if you've never heard of a Fischer House, it's very much like a Ronald McDonald House, except it's for the families of hospitalized veterans and military members. Here in St. Louis, we get veterans that come here for the VA treatment from all across the central Midwest, Kansas, Iowa, Missouri, Southern Illinois, Southern Indiana, Western Kentucky, and Northern Arkansas. And they come here for major treatments, heart surgery, radiation oncology, lung transplants, spinal cord injury. And when they come here, their families can stay in the Fischer House absolutely free of charge.
and stay for as long as their veteran is hospitalized, whether that's days, months, or weeks, whatever the time length is. And this is a picture of the house here in St. Louis. And by the way, we opened the 92nd house last year in Kansas City, VA. So they're on VA installations and military installations that have large regional hospitals. And if you get a chance, over here on the table, I have a little, just a little brochure and then a picture of what it looks like inside the Fischer house. So many of our guests that are coming in have never been to St. Louis before, and they hear they're staying at Jefferson Barracks. So they think they're going to be staying in an old Army barracks, sleeping on a cot. But it's anything, couldn't be further from the truth. It's like a 4-star or 5-star hotel. So this is a 20-bedroom suite house. We actually opened it in 2010, and we've had over 12,000 guests stay in the house since it opened, and it saved them $11 million in food and lodging costs. Let me tell you a few things about the veterans and the VA that you may not know. Number one is not all veterans are eligible for VA care. I spent 31 years in the Air Force, and I'm not eligible for VA health care. There are a few little sides, but the 3 main qualifications for VA care is that you've suffered a disability associated with military service, or you've suffered a catastrophic injury or illness, or your annual income is equal to or less than the definition of low income. And so the 2 main qualifiers are disability or low income. And that probably means that the family is not very wealthy at all. And what we find is when those families come in, they cannot afford to come and stay in commercial lodging and eat at restaurants all the time in an expensive place like St. Louis. So we get those folks that come in here. And before we had the Fischer house, it was not uncommon down at Jefferson Barracks, where we have a spinal cord injury unit for spouses that were living in their cars and vans in the parking lot. Or at our Midtown Hospital, John Cochran, they had families that were camping out lobbies, waiting rooms. And the reason was they just couldn't afford commercial lodging. And there was something actually worse than that. We had elderly veterans in rural areas that needed the health care that was offered here. And we had the veterans that just wouldn't come because their families couldn't afford to come with them. So the Fischer house just solved all of that. So Fischer houses are actually built with donations. They're not government funded. And the way that it works is the VA will donate their land to the Fischer House Foundation. And the foundation raises money nationally, we raise it locally. We provide our money to the foundation, they do the contracting, they build the house. And then the day that it's ready to open, they then gift the house and all the furnishings back to the VA. So from that point forward, it's a VA Fischer house, and they provide the utilities, the maintenance, the housekeeping, and the management staff. But there are a lot of things that the VA cannot provide by regulation. One is food. In my VA career, which was another 15 years, I ran the canteen service, which was the small retail stores and the food courts and all of the VA hospitals across the country. But VA is not allowed to feed its own employees. The only time you can do that is with a training event or an awards event. Also, we have many times overflow hotel rooms. The fact is, we don't turn any families away. If the house is full, and in normal times, it often is, the house is full, and if the family is eligible to stay there, we put them up in a hotel until there is room in the Fischer House. Also, transportation from Jefferson Barracks down to our Midtown hospital. We have a shuttle service that runs during duty hours during the week. But if you have a veteran in ICU, you probably don't want to leave at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And so what we do is we provide the transportation to get from the hospital back to the house. We also have veterans that are coming in for double lung transplants, and that's done at BJC at VA expense. And I can tell you that people that come in from rural areas driving in St. Louis is their worst nightmare, along with my wife. That's probably the reason they're scared to be out there. But we provide that transportation also. We also provide gift cards. Sometimes we have families that just can't afford gasoline to get home. But if you ever get to see the inside of the Fischer House, and I urge you to take one of those cards. It's just absolutely beautiful inside. So one of the things that's going to happen here in St. Louis, the VA has the downtown or midtown hospital, John Cox. It was built back in 1953. So it's an old facility, it's overcrowded, we've done a lot of things, but the VA is preparing to spend $1 billion to expand that facility. And the process has already started. Design started in June of last year, and the first step in the design process was completed in September of last year. And now we're working towards 35% design, which will give us all the cost factors. And so it was $30 million to do the design. Another $90 million has already flowed in, and so work has already begun. And another $170 million will flow in by the end of this year. So my feeling is once you spend $250 million for a $900 million project, you're probably not going to back out with that. And the way that it works is the VA will take the design to the 95% level, and then we turn it over to the Army Corps of Engineers to do the actual construction. And they do a hell of a job. And they do it right, they do it on time, they do it on budget. And the reason we have to do that is because we screwed up construction in some other places, like at Denver. We built a hospital there with the university, and theirs looks so great. And ours looked like Stalag 17. So somebody said, let's make it look beautiful. And then they found out the structure wouldn't support it, so we had to go back, and it looks like Stalag 17 today. So that's one of the things that's coming down the line. But that will be one of the most modern hospitals anywhere in the United States when it's finished. They're not designing it to do the work that's been done in the past. They're designing it to do what's going to be required in the future. So, like I say, please take a magazine, and I have this little brochure right here. So I represent the board. Like I said, we turn the building over to the VA. They provide the utilities, maintenance, housekeeping, and management. But there's so many things that they can't buy. And so we have a board that raises money to take care of it. Just to give you an idea, our transportation bill last month was like $3,000 just to get the families back and forth. And so I'd be more than happy to take any questions that you have. But
What, looking at this overall, isn't the population census going to, after we have Korean and Vietnam War veterans, there aren't as many people in the military from 1975 forward.
Well, that's what everybody thought, but that's not what we're seeing. Yeah, the cohort from Second World War mostly has passed through. Korean War is on the upper limit. The folks that were in Vietnam, like me, I'm now in my 80s. So I'm finding that we need more health care than when we were in our 20s. And then you had the Iraq, Afghanistan. You still have a lot of.
I don't think the numbers are quite the extent that we have.
Well, today you have 22 million veterans, 22.5 million veterans. And of that, 9 million meet the criteria that I just gave you for disability, catastrophic injury or illness, and low income. And I would say, probably we will have a few less veterans, but it seems the illnesses are even more serious. With the burn pits that we had in Iraq, that's where we're seeing a lot of double lung transplants now that are required. So in my lifetime, I don't expect to see anything less. And by the way, we're up to 92 Fischer houses now. Half of them are on military installations, half of them are on VA campuses like St. Louis, we're a regional medical center. And the last one that was opened was at Kansas City VA in September of last year. Yes, sir, Al.
On the Fischer House, how many families, I mean, how big is on the inside?
It has 20 bedroom suites. So we can accommodate up to 40 guests a day. But like I say, we don't turn anybody away that's eligible to stay there. We put them up in commercial hotels. We have contracts with those. And we do whatever it takes to take care of the family. Yes, sir.
Would there ever be a chance to have another Fisher House in St. Louis, maybe one in the downtown area?
Well, that's what we're working on right now. As part of that expansion project downtown, the VA wants to build a second Fisher House down there, slightly smaller. The new design that the Fisher House Foundation has 16 bedroom suites. They felt 20 was too many because they want the guests to work together. In fact, when we talk to our guests, they tell us their greatest source of comfort is talking to other families going through the same thing. And I can tell you when they're there, there's so many heart-rending stories of what they're going through. They find that's their greatest source of comfort, and we want them to be together. In fact, in the rooms, bedrooms, we do not allow food or drink except for water. Number one is to keep the rooms nice. Number two is so that the families work together and get that source of comfort. So they want a second Fisher House. We're working very hard to identify a site on or near the John Gottman campus. That's been my work for the past couple of months. But it's really hard to find the right space. Yeah, Chuck?
Certainly, it's not related to the Fisher. It's not related to Fisher House, but does the government have any rating scale? Like how does St. Louis stand in performance-wise comparison to the rest of the United States? I'm under the impression that we do a very good job.
You do. I'll tell you what, when I started with the VA in 1991, I came to the VA from the military. And at that time, we were known as God's little waiting room. Because if you came in, we were an inpatient-based system. You may not be going out the other side. And we had an individual, Dr. Ken Kaiser, that came in, and he was the Undersecretary of Health. And he made changes that were the equivalent of turning an aircraft carrier 180 degrees while going at full speed. And so today, the VA is rated as one of the best healthcare systems in the United States. And that's from the American Medical Association and the people that rate those hospitals.
Is that across the nation or is that?
That's across the nation.
Across the nation.
And in St. Louis, I can't tell you the there's so many different things, and I've worked with people in the spinal cord injury. They just do a great job. And if you come here for major surgery, like a heart transplant, a heart surgery, chances are your physician is going to be one of the professors from either Washington University or SLU, because those are our academic affiliations. Those professors work on the VA staff.
Does SLU provide physicians?
Yes, both of those. Both of those are medical schools, and they practice at the VA also. I think you had a question.
So you mentioned that a lot of your budget goes towards food, transportation, and some lodging.
Yeah, overflow hotel.
So what kind of budget is that for a year?
Usually we spend in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $75,000. This past year, believe it or not, even though we've had fewer patients, the price has gone up. Because what we did is the Fischer House manager said, when we have long-term guests, I can train them to follow all the COVID protocols. But we also have people that come in for an overnight stay. I found out that we had people traveling like 200 miles, elderly patients getting up at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning to drive here from West Plains or Western Kentucky for a 9 o'clock appointment, and then maybe they have another one at 1 o'clock, and then they were trying to drive home. It just wasn't safe. It wasn't good service. And so we said, anybody that's eligible to stay in the Fischer House, if they're coming in for an outpatient treatment outside of the 50-mile range, that's the criteria. They can either stay the night before or the night after in the Fischer House. And so we put those up in a commercial hotel to take care of the guests that we have. Because many of the guests we have, it's for the family. But if the family is there, and they can be spouse, children, siblings, grandchildren, or in some cases like spinal cord patients, they're caregivers. They can stay there. And if the veteran is in a program that they don't have to be in a hospital bed, but have to be at the hospital, they can come stay in the Fischer House. And believe me, if you have the choice between hospital food and a hospital bed, and you have a wonderful bed, home cooked meals, you'll take the latter. And so we've had them. But those patients have a lot of immune suppression drugs. And so their immune system is weakened, and we didn't want to expose them to things like COVID or other things coming. Yes, ma'am.
What kind of fundraisers do you do?
Well, Saturday was a trivia night, which we lost by one question. I brought my grandkids, so we did very well. One is this morning. Tonight I'm talking to the DFW Ladies Auxiliary. We have a golf tournament this coming Saturday, sponsored by the Knights of Columbus. And then next month we have our major golf tournament. I even have some brochures over here. If you know a golfer, we have a lot of fun, and that's our primary fundraiser for the year. So anywhere, anytime, I'm ready to go talk to you. Yes, sir.
Are there cooks on staff or families cook?
Well, in normal times, we have volunteers that will normally come in and cook or bring food in. But right now the VA is closed. We've had a surge of COVID requirements. We thought we were going to be able to open up the campus, but that hasn't happened yet. And we provide the food so the families can do their own preparation. Matter of fact, take a look at this card right here. You'll see it's a kitchen that many of the ladies that come in said, I'd die for this in my house. But it has two of everything: stove tops, microwaves, ovens that they can fix their own food, or they can eat whatever the volunteers put out.
we provide all of the food for them. So there's no expense whatsoever for the family. So anyway, I thank you so much for letting me tell you about the Fischer House. If you take that magazine, like I said, we have now 92 Fischer houses, and that just tells you what's going on at Fischer houses across the country. And then we have these right here, and please take that if you would. Thank you very much for having me. When the crew of the USS St. Louis comes to town, they come here quite often for publicity events. And the last time they came with a 3-star admiral on board, who's over all the shipbuilding in the Navy. And he had never been in the Fischer House before. So we were giving the tour, and I was in one of the bedrooms, and the other tour group came in there. I looked at him and I said, you know, I'm kind of embarrassed to be in the same room with you. His face fell, he was the nicest person you'd ever want to meet. And he said, why would you be embarrassed to be in the same room with me? And I said, well, after the Second World War, the only place my mother could afford to buy clothing for us was at the War Surplus store. And I can't tell you how embarrassing it was to go to school every day dressed as a 3-star Japanese admiral. If I had your uniform, I wouldn't have been embarrassed at all. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. We have a couple of announcements here. Dave, go first.
So I know Bob's gonna need a clip for the new badges with the new name on it. Does anybody else want or need a clip, or is everybody else good with magnetic that we have? I figured you have the front two, so one clip, and I'll get those over in the next week or so. You will, I might just won't go ahead, you will be paid for these. Mary and I donated the funds to buy this batch, but I'm gonna be honest and say, that was a one-time shot. With the name change, it's gonna add like $5 or $6 to your bill. They're not that expensive.
I talking with someone about the logo.
Right.
You need that before you go.
No, I'll go with the, these won't have any logo on them. These will be just as is. I won't need it for the banner, but I'm gonna use the full logo for that. The color.
Yeah, for the video. You're not gonna use the spirit of St. Louis County on the badge,
Just the name.
just Rotary?
Just, no, the club name. It'll be just exactly like this band,
Well, we,
except with the name.
but we folded that type on the name, okay?
Right, right.
It's not that thin type.
Yep, and that I can change on their stuff.
Okay, all right.
I know we're doing the scholarships this morning. The entrance to go in is, I don't know if you've heard, Bob, have you been to the auditorium? Instead of the auditorium, it's just to the left. There's 2 entrances down at the western end of the building. Go in, the constable entrance, you have to ring the bell, just tell the secretary or whoever answers, they're expecting us. We're with Rotary, and we'll gather there and then go down to the end. So,
There's some parking spaces.
Oh, yes, there should be.
And they're the entrance to where you used to go into the lobby. Gymnasium?
Yes.
And what's the time for that?
9 a.m. Well,
Well,
I
we're
think
going
that
to straight from here.
Yes.
We've got some
Okay.
discussion among us
Right.
first, but the first interview's at 9. And the last, we're scheduled in 20 minutes apart.
Perfect. Good. Thank you all for volunteering your time to do that.
Christmas graduation is June 4th, and they got 281 kids that graduated. Actually, normally there are 3 parties, but 60 of them graduated in December because they were ahead of the group, so we got 340 kids this year.
And I received a call from the senior class president, or senior class principal, and he said that either you or me could go and do the presentation of scholarships. I have been asked to do a couple of others, so if you want to go, great.
Okay, I'm not sure what my schedule is.
It's June 2nd.
Yeah.
So.
Kind of gratifying, right?
Yeah.
Really. And it's going to be even better that I'm not in charge.
Just go and do this.
That's exactly right.
And I want to echo Kyle's comments about last Friday. That was enjoyable. I know we had a great time at our table and get to see everybody. Just wish you could filter around the room a little bit more and talk to everybody. That's the way it's going to feel sometimes. So, but we enjoyed everybody that got out there and talked and everything. You know, a lot of people put a lot of effort into organizing it. I think it shows. So thanks to everybody.
Thanks to Mitch too for the slide.
Yeah.
Nice just having that running. Only the-
It was. It's very good.
You all did the work.
Yeah, Dave, matter of fact, I call it, because when I went around the room at the end and kind of started thanking people, they told me at first, but who did you forget? And I go, because it wasn't scripted. I go, probably everybody. Specifically, I know I think this Mitch and this Dave and group, I don't know, whatever, the activities on wrong, I think I remember. But anyway, yeah, I just actually had it scripted. I don't think very good. Did you pull up?
I did talk to Dave Bowler yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
I was driving down the page. Just passed on my mind, so I called him real quick. He's only missed 2 days at the office. His son is helping him do the driving and then sticking around at the office and helping him out. So he goes back. He said next week, we'll take the bandages off. And it'll be his first time to actually see what they've done. So it's his left hand.
And he's left-handed.
And he's left-handed. So he's, yeah, so he said, I ride like a third grader.
He should be enough. And when I visited him, he said his gun, jam, and it was sharp 9.9mm. And he went to reset it, and his left hand was over the end of the barrel. And that's why he didn't come down on Friday night. He said, I don't want everybody to see how this looks while they're eating dinner.
Yeah, I stopped by that too. So his wife was there, so she put the X-ray out, and what happened was actually kind of back here in the mouth. There's watching your in there. That's why I lost it.
They said he had to actually cut part of the bone in the hand because it was shattered. So then they pulled it together. He said he's having the biggest thing is he's got that phantom pain. So he feels like that finger hurts.
Well,
It's not there. Yeah,
He put his own vertical on, he was down in Farmington. or in that
yeah.
area.
So he said he hasn't gotten that bill yet.
Yeah.
He's gonna get a
It ain't gonna be cheap.
hellacious.
46 grand is what I heard the most common.
Yeah, how much?
46,000.
Over that. I've heard that.
Yeah.
Did anyone click on the link in the newsletter that they talked about more?
Which one?
I did.
It was on the front page of the post. Yeah, Saturday.
This newsletter?
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we read the newsletter.
There's a log cabin.
Well,
I just proofread.
This is probably the wrong thing to say, but I'm saying it anyway. Long as you continue with the rotors, but you all like it now. I'm sorry to see that life things up a little bit. I had about 6 websites I can hold from. And it saves time and having to help stuff. So.
He does it pretty early.
You got a wealth of voters right up here that I have to keep looking up.
So the lucky number is 133.
Yes.